Hi, hello there. Welcome to VLAN's video demo. Before we start with the video demonstration, let me give you some background or scenario about VLANs. Modern switches use virtual local area networks or VLANs to improve network performance by separating large layer 2 broadcast domains into smaller ones. VLANs can also be used as a security measure by controlling which hosts can communicate. In general, VLANs make it easier to design a network to support the goals for an organization. So VLAN trunks are used to span VLANs across multiple devices. Trunks allow the traffic from multiple VLANs to travel over a single link while keeping the VLAN identification and segmentation intact. On this video demo, we will create VLANs on all the switches in the topology, assign VLANs to switch access ports, verify that VLANs are working as expected, and then create a VLAN trunk between two switches to allow hosts in the same VLAN to communicate through the trunk, regardless of which switch the host is actually attached to. Okay, so let's start with our video demo. Okay, so this video demo talks about virtual LANs or virtual local area network or simply VLAN. Okay, now this would be our topology here. Okay, so this topology comprises of 3 switches and 6 hosts. Okay, so on this topology, so we are required to create 3 VLANs. Okay, so that would be VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30. Okay, so faculty, student, and guest respectively. Now for each of the VLAN, we are going to assign port 1 to 5 to VLAN 10 or faculty, port 6 to 10 to VLAN 20 or student, and port FA11 to 15 to VLAN 30. Actually, you can connect these hosts, right, to any of these switch port here within the range of the assigned interfaces for the VLANs. Okay, so let's start. So for PC1, okay, so let me connect it to complete this topology here. So I should use fast Ethernet 0 to connect to FA01 here. Okay, and then PC2 to 6. Actually, you can use 6 to 10. All right, and PC3, so to port 11. Again, you can use 11 to 15. Okay, now PC4, let us connect this to any of the interface within the range. So let me use port 2 here. Okay, and then for PC5, connect it on 10. That's still part of VLAN 20. And okay, so PC6 here connected to 15. All right, now let me use FA023 to connect to switch 1, so 23 also, and 24 connecting switch 1 to switch 3. Okay, so this would be our trunk. All right, so let's start our configuration. So our objective here is to create VLANs, assign these interfaces to the specified VLANs, okay? And we should be able to create communication on the same VLAN. So something like PC1 should be able to ping PC4 and vice versa, but not be able to ping any of the hosts on a non-VLAN 10. So PC1 will not ping or should not ping PC5 and PC6 here. Same thing with other VLANs, all right? So something like PC6 should not be able to ping PC1, PC2, or PC4 and PC5. So PC6 can only ping a host on the same VLAN, which is PC3 here. So that is our objective for this video demo. There should be connectivity on the same VLAN among the hosts. All right, so let's start our configuration. So let's start with switch 2 here. Okay, so let me change first the display. So this is S2 here, right? And let me just use the CLI here. Now, assuming that you already have configured the basic device settings or configuration, something like the security that we have shown on the first demo. Okay, so the line console, line VTY, and so on, that is very important to be configured where you are working or when you are working on the production. Okay, so in here, so assuming that everything is configured for the security, let's go directly on the configuration of the VLAN. Okay, so to start with, so enable. Okay, so configure terminal, host name, this is switch to here. All right, so let me create 3 VLANs on switch 2. So if I have here, say, do show VLAN, let's check. Okay, so we only have here the default VLAN, which is VLAN 1. Okay, and by default, all the interfaces of the switch are assigned to VLAN 1. Okay, so let's create the VLAN now. To create the VLAN, simply VLAN 10. Okay, and then name. So the name here is faculty. Okay, so next create VLAN 20. You've got name student, right? And VLAN 30. Okay, name guest. Okay, and then let's check this. Do show VLAN. Okay, so we have successfully created 3 VLANs, okay, on switch 2. Okay, and basically this configuration of VLAN is stored on a VLAN point dot. Okay, so if you want to show it, so do show flash. Okay, so take note, we have here VLAN point dot. All right, next, let us assign the interface to the specific VLAN that we have just created. So take note that by default, all interfaces belongs to VLAN 1. So we want FA01 to 5 be assigned to VLAN 10, 6 to 10 to VLAN 20, and 11 to 15 to VLAN 30. Okay, so let's do it. So actually you can assign an interface to a VLAN. Okay, so using a single interface configuration, something like, for instance, interface FA0/1. Okay, you've got switch port. Okay, mode access, switch port access, VLAN 10. Okay, so this is assigning the interface FA01 to VLAN 10. Let's check that. So in here, do show VLAN. Okay, so if you will observe, FA01 is already assigned to VLAN 10. Okay, and it was removed from VLAN 1 assignment. Okay, so once you have assigned interfaces or range of interfaces to a VLAN, it will be removed from the default VLAN. Okay, so you can do it per interface, or you could do it in a range. All right, so something like, okay, so interface range FA0 slab 2. Okay, so to 5. Okay, and then switch port mode access, switch port. Okay, access VLAN 10. Okay, so what will happen is we have successfully assigned port 2 to 5 in one command to VLAN 10. Let's check it. Do show VLAN here. Okay, so we have successfully assigned 5 interfaces FA01 to 5 to VLAN 10. Now let's do the same on VLAN 20 and VLAN 30. Okay, so let me just use range here. Interface range FA06 to 10. Okay. What's that? Ah, I'm already within the range. Okay, so let me configure terminal. Interface range FA06 to 10. Okay. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 20. Okay. And then interface range FA0 slash, so that is 11. Okay, so to 15. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 30. Let's go ahead and check this to show VLAN. All right, so we have successfully assigned the interfaces to the desired VLAN. All right, so we are done with the configuration of VLAN on switch 2 and the assignment of the interfaces to each of the VLAN. Okay, so let's also do that on switch 3. So let me go on switch 3 here. Okay, so this is S3 here. All right, so CLI. Let's do the same for switch 3 here. So host name S3. Okay, so interface, no, let's create a VLAN. So VLAN 10, switch port, not switch port, name. Okay, so this is faculty here. Okay, VLAN 20, name, student. VLAN 30, name, guest. That's it to show VLAN. Okay, so it's there. Now next is, let's do the assignment. So interface range FA0 1 to 5. Okay, switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 10. Okay, interface range FA0 6 to 10. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 20. Okay, and also interface range FA0, oh, that's 11 to 15. Okay, FA0 11 to 15. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 30. Let's see if we have successfully assigned these ranges of interfaces to the desired VLAN. So to show VLAN here. All right, so we are done with switch 3. Okay, now on switch 1, let's just create VLAN here. Okay, so this is S1 here. Let me change the display name. All right. Okay, so enable hostname switch 1. Hey, configure terminal hostname switch 1. All right, so let's create the 3 VLANs. So VLAN 10. Okay, name, faculty. VLAN 20, name, student. And VLAN 30, name, guest. Do show VLAN. All right, so we're done. So let's not assign interfaces since there is no device or hosts connected to switch 1. But if there are hosts connected to switch 1 that needs to communicate on the other host on the same VLAN, then you have to assign it. All right, so in our topology, since there is none, so let me not just configure that for S1. All right, Okay, so the next thing to do is let us assign an IP address on each of the hosts here and check later on if these devices or hosts on the same network or same VLAN can communicate with each other. So let's start with an IP assignment on PC1. So desktop, okay. So this is PC1 here. It's 192.172.16.10.1. Okay, so that is 255.255.255.0. Let me just copy this. All right. Okay, so for PC4, okay, so desktop. So let's put an IP address 172.16.10.2. Okay, this is last 24 here. All right. So that's it. Now let's do the assignment on PC2. So desktop. Okay. So this is 172.16.20.1. Okay. Slash 24. So this is desktop. Okay, so this one is 172.16.20.2. Okay, slash 24. Close. Now, same thing with PC3 here. Okay, so assigning an IP address for PC3, that is at 172.16.30.1 slash 24. Okay, and the last one, desktop IP configuration. So this would be 172.16.30.2. Okay, slash 24. All right. So we are done with an IP assignment on each of the PCs here. Okay, can they now communicate? Okay, so let's see. All right, so let's try to ping PC1 to PC4. Okay, so failed. PC2 to PC5 failed, and PC3 to PC6 still failed. That is because we have not yet set the configuration on our trunk. Okay, so take note that from the video lecture, so we can configure it manually, or we can use DTP, okay, or the dynamic trunking protocol to set between two switches. Okay, so between switch 1 and switch 2, let me use DTP here. Okay, and between switch 1 and switch 3, let me configure it manually. All right, so for switch 2 here, okay, so to do that, you just have to go to the interface. Okay, so that would be interface FA0/23. Okay, and then switch port, mode, dynamic. Let's use dynamic. Right, desirable. So if you'll observe, so our trunk goes up. Okay, you should also have the same notification on switch 1 here, and that's it. Okay, so if we are going to check this, let's go back to switch 2 here. Okay, so to check this one, so we have show interfaces trunk. So since we are inside the configuration, so do show interfaces trunk. Okay, now on switch 2, port 23 is set to be desirable. Okay, and it's set to trunk. Okay, and if you will observe here, if it is a trunk, by default, it allows all VLANs to pass through. All right. So next is, let's manually configure trunking between switch 1 and switch 3 here. Okay, so we implemented DTP between switch 1 and switch 2. Now let us implement a manual configuration of trunking between switch 1 and switch 3. Let's do that. Okay, so our connection from switch 1 to switch 3, it is via interface FA0/24. Okay, and to manually configure it on trunking mode, so that is switch port mode trunk. All right, so that's manual. We also have to do it on switch 3. Okay, so if you will observe, we have not yet set it, so you'll have this notification here. So let's do it. So interface FA0/24, switch port mode trunk. Okay, so let's check it. Do show interface trunk. All right, so FA0/24. Okay, on. Encapsulation is 802.1q, which is the default, and it was configured with manual trunking. Now that we already have configured, okay, so the trunking between the switches, all right, so let's check now if we can configure, or if we can now ping, okay, and have this failed connectivity earlier on to be successful. Let's just double click this. Okay, and it is successful. Okay, so that means we already have established the connectivity of these devices on the same network. Let's do that again. So PC6 should be able to communicate only with PC3. All right, because they are on the same VLAN. Now, if we try to communicate from PC6 to PC2, that will not be successful because they are on a different VLAN. Okay, same thing, PC6 to PC4, which is on VLAN 10. All right, so that's it. Now, same thing for PC5. If we try to ping PC2, which is also on the same VLAN, which is VLAN 20, it would be successful. But if PC5 would be connecting to PC1, okay, or to PC3 here, or to PC4, right, and PC5 to PC6, it would not be successful. Again, the purpose of VLAN is for these hosts to communicate only on the other hosts on the same VLAN. Okay, so if you want a connectivity among VLANs, so something like if PC1 would be able to ping PC5, which is on VLAN 20, then that is what we call inter-VLAN. And that is on the next video demo. All right, so we have successfully completed this video demo, and I have shown you that hosts on the same network would be able to communicate only, okay, on the hosts on the same VLAN. All right, so that's it. That's how simple it is to configure a virtual LAN on a Cisco switches. All right, so I hope you have learned something from this today. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.